The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Greetings, Earthlings, and alert the media. This week's second hour of the John Lebang Show is headed your way. Welcome to another hour of Sonic Vibrations brought to you by the Banger Network and myself. That's right, your host, John Lebang, here once again. So we have a lot we discussed in the first hour. I want to carry some of that over into this hour because we have some news about the Navy ship. They did find those 7 crewmen that were missing, all dead, by some mysterious ship crashing into them. Now we lost 7 sailors' lives. And if that's not bad enough, we're finding out that in another part of the world, Afghanistan for that matter, we had 7 U.S. soldiers get wounded by an Afghani soldier just for some random reason. Because there are people inside the Afghan military there that I guess do not like our soldiers. There's an odd coincidence that there are 7 and 7 in both cases, in both stories. But outside of that, on one hand, we've got a boat, a destroyer, very expensive ship with a lot of high-tech gadgets. Not only weaponry, but sonar and radar and detection devices. And somehow, some ship, huge ship, freighter, merchant ship as they call it, was able to mosey on up and smash right into the side of that ship, killing 7 men now. And it makes you wonder what is going on. If a ship can just mosey on up on you, cruise on up on you, and take out one of our destroyers by just slamming into it, and there was nothing the destroyer could do, apparently. Nobody was on watch. Nobody's seen this coming. From all accounts, it was a clear night. But even if it's not a clear night, apparently the sonar, the radar, the other detection devices that cost us taxpayers boatloads of cash so that we keep our sailors safe and protected from enemies. If they're not an enemy, you can just crash right into them. If you're just a merchant ship. And I'm starting to wonder, how deep does the incompetency go inside of our government? Something went wrong out there. Why couldn't they figure out that this ship was on a collision course? Isn't there some way to protect the ship? And you would think, as I'm reiterating from the first hour, after the U.S. coal back in the late 90s, we would have protocols in place that if a ship is not responding to turning or requesting to get out of the way, there should be some kind of protocols in there to protect our ships. But apparently there's not. And the best we can do is offer our condolences to the families who lost their sons to some freak accident because nobody was prepared for something like this. Can you imagine how weak our military must be if this can happen? What if this was a submarine from Russia or China or some kind of real warship? Our destroyer wouldn't be just damaged and taken out of commission for a little bit. It would be sunk, and we would have lost more than just 7 lives. Or is that our naval vulnerability? If you're not a military ship, we can't stop you. Maybe that's where the enemies of the United States will bring their naval attacks from. That's the vulnerability in the U.S. Navy. Unmarked, non-military ships can really destroy the U.S. military, apparently. So the Chinese and the Russians and whoever else who wants to take out our naval fleet, they don't need to spend millions and billions and trillions on naval vessels that are military ready. They just need to send a few dinghies out there, a freighter every once in a while, to have them slam into our ships. You know, we spend all this money, and this is really, as you can see, aggravating me, because we lost 7 people here that didn't need to be lost. Not our guys. If somebody's on watch, if somebody's paying attention, you think they could have avoided this mess. And apparently there was heavy traffic. You can't see a freighter on a collision course with you?
Prepare for ramming speed!
How do you handle such a thing when the thing doesn't want to turn? After a while, you blow it out of the water. And you deal with the blowback then. You don't take the hit. The thing was headed right for us. We warded it off. We told it to stay away. It kept coming. It was on a collision course. I mean, I'm assuming they warded it off. I'm assuming they called to the impending ship who was going to cream them and tell them, don't come this way. I mean, that might be assuming too much. I'm not sure. So now we have a vehicle, a ship. The freighter's not even badly damaged, by the way. So now the bad guys know, if they didn't know before. All the enemies of the United States know now that the U.S. destroyers, at least, are completely vulnerable to merchant ships slamming into the side of them. There's nothing they can do against it. All the billions of dollars we spend on military, naval, Air Force, they talk about how advanced our military is, and we can't stop something so simple like this. And maybe I'm dragging this out. Maybe I'm making too much of a big deal about this situation. But we have enemies in the world. And everywhere you turn, our military can't hack it. We can't handle it. Greatest military in the world, and we can't beat ragtag terrorists who hide in caves. Can't do it. this technology that they are promoting, obviously there's something lacking there. Something is wrong. I don't know what. But with the amounts, the budget, there's tons of money that goes into the military. Tons of money. You think these little things wouldn't happen, but they do. We shouldn't lose wars. Yet, the way I look at Iraq, we lost that one. We went in, we didn't get what we wanted, we had to leave for the most part. It got taken over by a bad group, and then we had to come back. We didn't win that. We're still in Afghanistan. Still there. And now the Afghani army is trying to kill our guys. Because this last incident, where 7 of our soldiers were wounded, this wasn't the first attempt at that. It's been happening. Something is wrong. And I don't think it's on the average soldier, average seaman. I think it's in the bureaucracy. I think it's in the command structure. Something is wrong with the military. And if you don't think countries like China and Russia are sitting back going, and North Korea, let's add them in there. Well, geez, that was easy to take out a destroyer. And we still get to keep our boat. All they have to do is slam into our destroyers. It's like boat kamikaze. It's ironic that it happened in Japanese waters. And this stuff better be fixed quickly because our enemies are watching. And they're like, this is me portraying myself as Kim Ding Dong. I'm out there, and if I'm Kim Ding Dong out there, I'm like, well, geez, that's easy to take out some of their boats. We got a whole bunch of boats. We can just send them out and keep crashing them in, and there's nothing they can do about it. How's that for an opening? You thought it was going to be a nice, easy show here on the John Lebang Show, didn't you? You came here, you didn't expect that the banger was going to start off all fired up. But ridiculous things like this it gets me a little bit angry. Because I care about these 7 soldiers. I don't even know them. I care about them. I care about our soldiers that are in Afghanistan for whatever reason I don't even know anymore. And they're getting shot by the people that were supposed to be there to help. It's completely and utterly ridiculous, the situation our country is now in. It's like a giant, hopeless cause. We can't save it. Or it's too hard to save. So they postpone the complete damage, the complete fall part to someone else. And hopefully someone else can hold it off for a little while longer. It's all crumbling. And it makes me mad. And that's why people voted for Donald Trump. Because he was at least talking about rebuilding everything. Because we are just, there's a lot of us that are sitting here, and this is not some new revelation that everything's crumbling. We've been talking about it for a long, long time. And the people that voted for Trump had seen it for a long time that everything was crumbling, and he promised to build it. And we figured, you know what? He may not be able to rebuild it, but he can do some patchwork that was desperately needed. And we're seeing with the mainstream manufactured news, with now all these investigations on Russia that they can't find anything. So now they're switching to maybe obstruction of justice because they're looking for anything to stop the patchwork, just the patchwork needed for this country to continue. Be right back, folks. Don't think about touching that dial.
That would be a mistake.
The John Lebang Show will be right back after this.
That's guaranteed, man. Like some good Thai stick.
If you are elderly, disabled, receiving SSI or Medicaid, and you have a medical need or require assistance with daily housework, shopping, grooming, medication, you may qualify for housekeeping at no cost. Call now. VIP Home Healthcare, 248-579-3805. VIP Home Healthcare, there when you need them. That's 248-579-3805. Check out the new book from Derek Shelmerdine,
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It tells the story of rock and roll from its roots right up until the mid-70s punk.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Not just the music, but also the events that shaped the music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It includes the backgrounds to recording sessions, singles, album releases, births and deaths, epic concerts, and festivals.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Shelmerdine has made a painstaking effort to document pretty much every event that would prove significant in shaping popular music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Purchase the book at www.rockandrollunraveled.com. Follow them at Twitter at R&R Unraveled and look them up on Facebook at Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
By author Derek Shelmerdine.
Available now. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's hydroponic radio for your brain, man.
Feel smarter yet? All right, folks, welcome back. As I alluded to in the first segment there, we're heading into another phase now of the Trump investigations. They've been unable to damage him, to find any real hard evidence. With all, how long has this investigation been going on? And they've not been able to find any true hard evidence of collusion between Trump, the campaign, and Russia. So now, Mr. Robert Mueller, this special prosecutor, is going to be shifting the narrative. And the mainstream media, along with those politicians, are going to follow suit. Now they're going to be talking about obstruction of justice. They're looking for anything to derail the Trump agenda, the Trump presidency. Because the Trump agenda is the agenda of the American people who voted for Trump. They're trying to derail that. Even though we know that we're not going to get everything Trump promised. Even though the diehards for Trump know that if they get 30% of what Trump promised, they did good. That's a good thing. And the people who voted just against Hillary, yours truly included, will be happy to get 15%. Because we weren't going to get 15% with Hillary. We were going to go the wrong way. Trump's not a perfect man. He has his flaws. But what is going on with the mainstream media, the investigations, never-ending investigations, into Russia, and now they're going to be switching the narrative to obstruction of justice because there's nothing there on the Russian thing. Nothing there. And the only thing we found out is that Russia does the same exact things that we do. And what we should do to fix that instead of hold hearings is beef up our cybersecurity so Russia cannot do that into the future. But we're also noticing, including Comey there, that a lot of the leaks aren't coming from the Russians, they're coming from within the government at an incredible rate. And that should if anybody had questions about how the Podesta emails were leaked to WikiLeaks, that should be the first place, because we're now seeing it. It's no big secret that people inside the government are leaking to the media. Because they can do it now. They can do it because the media, who was pro-Obama, they couldn't leak to the media then because most of that stuff would be suppressed. And it probably was leaked to the media, and the media ignored it. So they had to go through WikiLeaks. But now that the media wants everything hating on Trump, and they're a complete anti-Trump, anti-Republican, anti-alternative media machine, they're going to take those leaks, true, false, full of innuendo, maybe, possibly, whatever this produces, these leaks, it doesn't matter. As we saw with the New York Times, fake news, 100% fake news, and they ran with it. So we got an entire political structure that has been embedded for decades. We've got a media that controls the hearts and minds and thoughts of the American people, all working in collusion to dismantle the one person that the American people put their hopes and dreams behind after the abysmal, the sheerly destructive 8 years of President Obama, 8 years of George Bush, and then another 8 years of Bill Clinton, which happens to look like to be the best of the three between Bush, Clinton, and Obama. Trump, who was thrusted into power by the American people, he has a job to do, and everybody of any sort of power is trying to obstruct it. Whether you like Trump or not, whether you voted for Trump or against Hillary, it doesn't matter. What you wanted to happen is being attacked left and right, literally and politically, because the establishment right has been holding up a lot of things. Look at how long the Obamacare repeal and replacement has taken. And in fact, it's pretty stalled, right? There's nothing going on. You're not hearing much about that. What about those tax cuts that were promised? They're being held off too. And who's in power? Those Republicans. And to scare you, the media gins up violence from their base, and they go out and commit heinous acts, and they hope that that'll silence the people who want the Trump agenda to succeed. And that's where we're at right now in this country. And the hill that was so high to get on just to get Donald Trump elected, that hill has now turned into a mountain of opposition. And we're going to be lucky, ladies and gentlemen, the people who either voted for Donald Trump or voted against Hillary, we're going to be lucky to get 5% of the agenda, because they are doing everything in their power to derail Trump, to get rid of him, to move him out of there. He isn't helping his cause at all. But when you already start hearing about President Pence in the mainstream media, and that's what they're talking about, President Pence, because somehow they're going to start working towards impeaching Trump. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Ted Lieu says Congress will impeach Trump, or at least start the process if he fires any of the investigators, Mueller or anybody else. See, they're shooting that out already there. They're putting it out. It's a threat. They're trying to halt any pushback that the Trump administration might have, because they pushed back very well against most of this Russian thing, and they came out pretty much undamaged. Now they're throwing everything else they can at him. The idea that you're going to throw innuendo out. If Trump does this, we're going to do this. Trump hasn't done that. There was a case to fire Comey. He was going to get fired under Clinton if she won. And he gets fired under Trump. And they're trying to use it against him. And that backfired. The Russian probe has backfired. There's nothing there. If there was, they would have found it by now. Because Trump has pretty much been under, or his administration is, because like Comey says, Trump wasn't under investigation, but Trump's campaign was under scrutiny, not only from the mainstream media, but from the establishment. The establishment didn't like losing the election, and the mainstream media, who's part of the establishment, is the attack dog. And because the attack dog was set loose on the newly elected president, we have been under constant propaganda and political bias when it comes to the news. It's all working in collaboration with each other. And I'm not saying Trump's a great man. I think I've stated that a few times. He's a flawed human being. Who isn't? He tweets too much. He says stupid things. But what's going on here, the attacks on Trump, the attempts to derail his agenda, is, by extension, going after all the people who put their faith in the vote to get him elected. So there, the mainstream media, the establishment are not only attacking Trump, they're attacking you. Half-hour break, folks. More on the flip side. Stay tuned.
Don't go anywhere. The John Lebang Show will be right back.
You'd be crazy to change the dial now.
CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services. Their billers and managers are all dedicated to working for you to increase your profits. For more information, call CRRM at 248-579-3805. CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services.
Fans, do you need a video for your brand new song but don't have a lot of money? Then contact John Lebang. His reasonable rates, professional look, and fast turnarounds will help get that song off the ground. Contact him at jlebang.com.
And allow me to do some self-promotion. If you like what's going on here on the John Lebang Show and you really are interested in knowing more, then feel free to go to my website. That's www.jlebang.com. That's JLEBANG.com. We have archives of the show, stories, news items, videos, and even some comedy and music for your entertainment pleasure. Now, if you want to contact the John Lebang Show, you can go to the website there and hit the contact button, or you can directly email us at Lebang at live.com. That's JLEBANG at LIVE.com. Now, if you're on Twitter, you can follow us on Twitter at John Lebang. We've got a couple YouTube channels. One is called Banger Incorporated. The other one is aptly named The John Lebang Show. Look us up and subscribe to those channels. And if you're on Facebook, we're on Facebook. We know you are. Mark Zuckerberg's in everybody's house. Let's then get you to come over to our page and like that page at The John Lebang Show. This half hour is brought to you by Pane and the Glass Window Cleaning. For a beautiful, sparkling shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass Commercial and Residential Window Cleaning. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
Forces of darkness, the treasonable Mayans who collaborate, must can and will be wiped from the face of the earth.
Well, you know somebody's career is on either the downslide or they're just no longer relevant at all when they pull out a publicity stunt to make them relevant again, to get people to talk about them. And our good buddy, rock and roll star Gene Simmons, well, obviously his career's in the, slow mode. It's not where it used to be. Downside. He's gonna, to keep himself relevant, he's trademarking the devil horn sign. We've got it this way, and if you're watching on video, you're seeing this, and then there's this way, and this is the one he's trademarking. Needless to say, right there, needless to say that symbolism, that hand gesture, has been around for thousands of years. Just because you're making a little variation, Mr. Simmons, you think you can trademark that. It's unbelievable now, because he must not be bringing in the money. Apparently, if you trademark that, maybe he can sue people to get money for every time they do that. So then he can go around to people, send lawyers out to watch everybody's Facebook page. And anybody that uses his little symbol that he trademarked, even though it's been around for thousands of years, if not longer. The guy's going to get paid for that? Why trademark the issue? And that's because it's a publicity stunt. He is just trying to make himself relevant because his career is on the downslide. And personally, I'm not a big fan of Kiss. I did go see them once, way back in the day over there at Cobo Hall, when that was a relevant venue to see a band. But when you're pulling out media stunts to make yourself relevant again, let me back up. That's all Kiss ever was a media stunt. Their first concert ever, they hired a limo driver, brought in a limo and got out of their vehicle. That's the story that I've heard. They're the Madonna of rock music. There was very little talent there in the band in the first place. Sure, they had a couple good songs. None of their albums, in my humble opinion, can be even ranked in the top 50 or top 100 rock albums. Some people will argue that. But Kiss was a publicity stunt. They were a gimmick. They used shock value, very much like Madonna did, used shock value to propel their career. It wasn't that they wrote fabulous tunes. They had a couple good songs, a few that went down into history, but they were mediocre in their songwriting. It was all gimmick, and they changed with the times. Remember, I was meant for loving you, baby. I mean, that was them attempting to do disco when they weren't a disco band. Then they took the makeup off and then put it back on when it was to their advantage again. They were one of those bands that just followed the trend. All they did was take what Alice Cooper did and do it as a band. They used shock value. The difference there is Alice Cooper had a great band behind him. He wrote classic songs, many classic songs. He's still relevant. He's still touring. He's still making good tunes. That's because he's a solo act versus a band. It's hard to keep that band going. And really, the only person in the band, in my humble opinion, that was even talented was Ace Frehley. The rest of the band were a bunch of mediocre musicians. The singer had a decent voice. And they went after all the trends when they were writing music. They just followed the trend. I remember that show when I went to see them at Cobo Hall. The whole show was a big gimmick. It was great because their drummer at the time, it wasn't Peter Criss, Eric Carr, I believe his name was. They had these like stairs that went over to the crowd, went over above the crowd a little bit, so it came off the stage. And the drummer running around on stage, because it's a gimmick with them. The whole thing's a gimmick. Their show's a gimmick. It's like the World Wrestling Federation, but for a rock band. Like I said, it's Madonna. It goes for shock value. Madonna even had more talent than Kiss. And that's all that propelled this band. And the little story, the guy tried to run up the stairs and he fell on his face. It was great. It was hilarious. It was kind of like a symbolic gesture from the gods that this band is a joke. And I know there are a lot of Kiss fans out there. I grew up with Kiss fans. They loved them. But it wasn't because their tunes were that good. It was the shock value. Gene Simmons biting that capsule and spitting out blood, and the flames and the makeup. Kiss was a spectacle, as Madonna was. And they relied less on their tunes and more on their stage presence and their visual over what they wrote. They weren't even that great of writers. Heck, most of the stuff, like I said, they followed the trends. They stole things. Maybe not directly. They borrowed them, some people would say. Very much like radio talk show hosts do.
Resistance is futile.
I mean, I've fallen victim to people borrowing, taking my stuff, taking my ideas, using my skits, taking what I did first, what I borrowed first, and then making it a part of their broadcasting. I've watched it in my colleagues here on internet radio, or I've heard it, and then I've seen it from the YouTube community. I started dressing up in these videos, right? Where you people watching here on YouTube, I started dressing up wearing the suit coat and the nice shirts in my videos because I wanted to be presentable to my listeners. My hair wasn't always good, I know now why they have stylists working at these TV stations, because when you're seeing in a monitor, you don't always see one of your little hairs out of place and whatever. And then when you see it in the video, when you're watching it after the fact, you're like, oh my God, look at that dorky hair just pointing out there, and I look like an idiot. But here on the YouTube side of things, I started wearing these jackets and the nice shirts because I wanted to look presentable. I wanted to appear that I'm professional. And now I'm starting to see it in other people's videos on a regular basis. So they're taking from me, which in some ways, it's flattering. Cool, man. You borrowed something from me. You took something from me. You stole a bit of mine. I mean, it's flattering in some ways. In other ways, it's insulting because you're like, well, can't you do something on your own? Don't you have your own ideas? Because I attempt to bring you as a one-man show. That's even harder than the shows out there that have a duo or a trio, because there's actually things you can have conversations about with somebody else, and you don't have to carry the whole hour. And outside of the characters that stop in occasionally, I'm carrying the whole hour and 2 hours every single week. And if my voice isn't up to par, I still got to do the show. And you can't just, if somebody's sick, you have the other guy to fill in to do the show. And that's something I noticed, and this is not a criticism per se, but I do notice with these other internet radio broadcasters and the alternative media that if they're unable to make the show and they're part of a duo or a trio, the show doesn't go on. It's week off. And I'm like, it's 1 week. I'm surprised that somebody can't carry the show for 1 week on their own. I understand it's very difficult to carry a whole hour. And how I've gotten onto this, when I was talking about Gene Simmons and his little publicity stunt, I don't know, but that's how the John Lebang show goes. We kind of go with the flow and let, outside of me keeping on hitting the microphone because I'm so active with my hands, I haven't found a way to stop that, for me to present my show in the John Lebang way with the correct emphasis on certain things. I have to speak with my hands a little bit, and I've been hitting the microphone a lot lately, so I'm going to work on a new, while we're off that is, work on a new way of setting up the microphone and still being able to do the video without me knocking the microphone, because I know on the listening end, hearing a tap on the microphone when it's unintended is a little distracting. So how I got on all this, I don't know. You know me. We just go from here to there and we make a show of it. And we find a way to make a show of it each and every single week. Unless we're going on vacation. We tell you in advance we're going on vacation. We don't just miss a week. And there are some weeks, ladies and gentlemen, because it is hard to be here every single week as one guy. As one guy with no backup. You've got to find a way to be motivated every single week to do your show. And you got to find topics, and you got to make those topics interesting to the listener, get them engaged. And when I get the emails from people, when people are in the chat room talking, which, I don't want to brag too much, but I've noticed in most of the stations that I monitor that have chat rooms, most of them, not all of them, the John Lebang Show crowd is very active. They're, in most cases, more active than the other shows. So I really appreciate my listeners. This is maybe a shout out to all of you who listen to the John Lebang Show and who are active in chat and show up to the YouTube videos and leave comments. I appreciate it. You guys are great. You guys are part of why the John Lebang Show is so successful. And unlike Gene Simmons, whose career is slowly dripping away and fading away, and he has to resort to publicity stunts, the John Lebang Show is on the rise. The John Lebang Show is increasing its listenership each and every month. It's an amazing thing. When I saw the numbers last month, I was shocked. I was floored. I had to pinch myself to make sure that those were the actual numbers. And with some of the announcements that I made in the first hour, and we're going to get to those here in the last little segment. We'll go over some of the remaining announcements then. The listenership is only going to expand. I mean, there are a whole lot of things coming up that are just awesome. So we're up against our break, folks, as we are winding down this week on the John Lebang Show. One more segment and Cool or Uncool on the other side of this.
Where do you think you're going?
Hey, man, don't go anywhere, man. The John Lebang Show will be right back.
Are you crazy?
Powerful, epic music by Toot Box Roll. Life-changing lyrics come in every style, empowering humanity to finally unlock the chains of bondage. Experience the edgy side of positive music and rock your world today. From Primal to Divine, available now at sassyalternativemusic.com.
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show. Now here's John.
All right, folks, as you know, time is winding down. And before I get to some of the announcements that I missed in the first hour, maybe I'll recap a little bit of that myself. I wanted to give you a little personal story, what happened to me this week. My nephew was in town. He came up from Florida, and we hadn't seen him in a considerably long time. So we went out to dinner at this nice little Mexican restaurant in, I believe that's Garden City. It's called Mexican Fiesta. Really nice little Mexican restaurant. Pretty good food. And it was a nice time. But here's John. You know, I show up because I got to come straight from my day job and head over there. And I find a parking spot towards the back. And I get out of my car, open the door, and as I'm closing the door, I'm using my right hand to close the door, and I had my keys in my left hand. I drop my keys, and that, you know, I have a little issue with my left hand where I had surgery. I had it crushed years ago, and I had surgery done on it, and every once in a while it just loses grip, and so I lost my grip on the keys, and they fell to the ground as I was pushing the door closed. Well, I slammed the door on my right thumb. So here I am. It's locked, by the way. Here's John in the middle of the parking lot, the backside of the parking lot, with his right hand, or his right thumb, lodged in the door. Just lodged in there. I won't even tell you how much pain I was in. And I've got to stretch because there's my keys on the ground. So I have my thumb lodged in the door, and I'm backhanded. So like my palm isn't facing me. It's the back of my hand that's facing me. So my hand's turned kind of upside down, and I'm stretching to get my keys. And it was a considerable distance, believe it or not, and I'm at full stretch, and I'm half bent over because my thumb's stuck in the door, and I don't want to just try to pull it out and maybe rip half my skin off. So I stretch and get the keys and power lock. So I unlock the door, use my left hand to pull my thumb out, and you could tell already there's that like pinch mark on my thumb. And so I head towards the restaurant, walking in towards the front door in a lot of pain. But I'm trying to be a man because you got to be tough, you know. It was, I tell you, if there was a video of me trying to stretch for my keys while my thumb was stuck in the door, it would probably be a very funny video. Because I was stretching and stretching and stretching as far as I could to get these keys. And I don't know if there is a video, but it would probably be something funny to watch. It wasn't funny at the time. In fact, I was thinking in my head while I'm stretching, and in between the sharp shots of pain, I'm thinking how stupid I am to have done that. I mean, how do you lodge your own thumb in the door backhanded on top of it? Not even for, where you can have your palm facing you. And maybe it was karma for years ago. I closed the door on my sister. We were racing to the car, and she was really young. Her fingers weren't nowhere near as big as my fingers, but I'm sure it still probably hurt a heck of a lot because the door doesn't give way. Your thumb has to give way, or your fingers have to give way to the door. So maybe that was karma that was paid back to me years later. It was really slow karma. But I'd like to see that videotape because I bet you it's hilarious to see me in that semi-crouch position, stretching. It was almost like I was trying to surf. I probably look like that, like I was surfing on the concrete there. So anyways, to make a long story longer, I get my finger out and I go into the restaurant to meet my family, and I just walk up to them like they had to have known I was in excruciating pain, because at that moment, once the blood started flowing back into the thumb, the pain really set in. And I walk up to him and said, listen, I smashed my thumb in the door. I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'll be right back. So I go in the bathroom and I'm looking and I'm examining my thumb, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to bruise, because it was already purple. And it was starting to swell, and I ran it under the cold water just to alleviate some of the pain. But, when I got, after all that, I got back to the dinner, and outside of the throbbing pain that constantly was nagging me through dinner, it was an extremely nice dinner. And if you ever get a chance to go over to a Mexican Fiesta over there, Ford Road in Garden City, if you're here in Michigan and want a good Mexican style meal, that's a good place to go. So, okay, we got some announcements to make here before we get to Cool or Uncool. We forgot a few of these in the in the first hour, and I apologize. I'm pulling them up as I'm speaking, so I'm semi-distracted. So we told you that next week on our origination station, we're being preempted, so do not come to the 8 p.m. John Lebang show where we originate, because we're not going to be there. You're going to have to check us out on the website, or you're going to have to wait for the archives to come out, maybe on YouTube or whatever, to get a copy of that. Or you can tune into one of the other stations, because there are plenty of stations for you to listen to. We also discussed the summer scheduling. If you have any questions about that, maybe you want to find out more, maybe you missed it in the first hour, you can go to our website or the Facebook page, and it'll explain the summer scheduling for you. Station managers and program directors, you'll be getting a copy of that here shortly. Maybe not this week, but in the near future. Next week, we're of course having the guest extraordinaire, Derek Shelmerdine. He'll be coming in the second hour. Because we're being preempted in that first hour on our origination station, they're not going to get. We're gonna play, and it's actually a special. The rest of the stations are going to make out. They're going to get the first copy, the origination. They're going to get the Banger Verse 5 in the first hour. So you're actually, if you're not on our origination station, if you're not listening to us there and you're listening to us on any of the other stations, you're actually going to get a first-time listen that the people on the other station aren't going to get a listen to. So that's exciting for all the other stations who don't normally get to debut the show each and every week. They're going to have a shot at debuting a show for the first time. Then we're, like I said, in the second hour, we got Derek Shelmerdine. What I didn't tell you, now that I've got kind of a refresher there, what I didn't tell you is to keep your eyes open for the Destiny Wars 3 trailer, which should be coming out within a couple weeks. So that's exciting. Also, some other things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the segment we call Cool or Uncool with Shady. When we get back from our little break in September, you're going to be hearing that only in the second hour. What we're doing in the first hour is we're bringing back open lines. And we've already cleared this with Shady. His contract was up. We talked about it. We got a new arrangement. He's very happy with the new deal. So everything is cool there. So nobody should worry that Shady's going to up and get upset because Cool or Uncool is only going to be in the third hour. A little reminder that the second hour, I'm sorry. A little reminder because now I'm thinking of the third hour. We're starting a third hour in September, and it's going to be an all music hour. So that's exciting. We're going to play unsigned bands, classic music from bands back in the day that you might not hear. And I'm not talking the signed bands. I'm talking unsigned bands, local bands that may no longer exist, but they had great songs. We're going to play them as well. So it's going to be a great mix. It's going to be something different than every other show out there that plays music during their broadcast. The third hour of the John Lebang Show is going to have a banger twist to it. So that's exciting news. As we are finishing up here, we're waiting for Shady to come in. I just noticed that what should I call him? One of the other radio shows out there just did it again. Now they're giving away tickets. Remember, the Banger gives away stuff, and here's where the Banger's going to give away stuff again. If you are the third person to go to the website and go to our little link that says giveaways, sign up here. You go there and tell me which musical artist we talked about coming out of the half-hour break there, which musical artist coming from that band that wore all that makeup. If you can tell me who that is and you're the third person to answer correctly, you're going to win one of the fabulous prizes of your choice, and they're available on the website for you to pick. We've got a Wrecking Crew t-shirt. We've got a Dark Clouds t-shirt. We've got a Metallica CD. We've got Jay Lebang CDs. We've got all kinds of stuff, and you get to pick it if you're the third person to answer correctly. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for yet another week of broadcasting excellence right here on the John Lebang Show. I'd like to thank all of our affiliate stations all across the globe. Don't forget to go to my website. That's www.jlebang.com. Thank you, especially you, the listener. I want to thank all of you for listening and giving me an hour or 2 hours of your time. You sharing the stuff, you letting people know all about the John Lebang Show. I cannot thank you all enough. Without you, this show would not be where it's at, and it wouldn't be heading to all the great and exciting things that are coming just a few months away. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, this is John Lebang signing off from the Banger Studios.
Resistance is futile.
You're calling the John Lebang Show.
Hey, John, it's Shady. I'm not gonna make it for Cool or Uncool.
Well, I kind of figured that since the show's just about over, Shady.
Yeah, sorry about that. Did you get all the announcements in?
Yeah, I got them all in.
Even the one about you being preempted?
Yeah, I made sure everybody knew about that.
So are you gonna go to that show?
Well, I wasn't invited.
Well, they kept tagging you in posts.
Yeah, but that's a different story. Nobody asked me to actually be at the show.
And they didn't tell you?
No, I just had to find out on my own.
Well, what if you had done a show?
Well, I guess I would have been SOL then, Shady.
Well, you probably didn't want to go anyways, John.
Why do you say that, Shady?
Well, you're not into that alien sex thing. Anyways, I gotta go. Bye, everyone.